part this off on the end. This is the, I think, 4th video on this, and I just sharpened my gravers again, so they're pretty darn sharp. So I'm going to see if I can use this very sharp graver to part this off. Hopefully I can. I have to bring it a little closer to the work. It's always a challenge to readjust your tool rest to make sure you're not too far away. And I think I'm not too far away. And this thing's a little flexy on the end, so I just want to get rid of this flexy part and part this off. So this has to go up just a bit, like that. See if that does the job. And I'm hoping this graver is good enough, sharp enough to do the job. Yeah, it wants to ride up, so it'd be nice if I could just saw this off. That'd be the best situation, to saw the darn thing off. The other thing I've used is the 0.2 round graver, 2 round instead of flat, and the 2 round one seems to be able to do the job. So let me see if I can install that and do the job. And if this doesn't work, I'm just going to go to a very small file to do this. This has worked in the past, but who knows. This is an interesting day I'm having today. So this, just parting this off so I can get it prepped to start making the pivot on the end. So let's just try this out here, see if this is going to remove material for me. Yeah. And then go to the extra good glasses here. As I said before, I put a little bit of a tape shield on the one that I'm not looking through, so I don't have that risk of a piece of material just flying off and hitting me in the eye. So we'll just see how well this works. It's nothing like being close. It does want to ride up, so I may just saw this off. I may just saw it off. It doesn't seem to want to cut itself off, so if I saw that off, then I'd be able to work on the pivot. I'm not sure what's causing it to catch. Some piece of metal on the other side, I guess, or something. Just let it ride under when it does that. Otherwise you got bigger trouble. Yeah, I'm going to see if I can get a file to finish that off. I do have the largest collection of files. Some of these diamond files aren't too bad, actually, if they're sharp enough to do that job and cut it, but a lot of them aren't sharp enough. They're just fat files. This one in the end might be a little better because it's kind of got a cutting edge to it right there. It still might not be good enough. And then the diamond ones are good. And these are not files here, so as you can see, neither are these. And neither are these. These are all reamers. And then in the bottom of this box, I've got a million different types of files. I do not recall where I picked all this stuff up, but I do have a lot of files. Some of them might have an edge to them that I can use to cut that off. Like this one here, I think. This one right here is this has got a filing edge to it, so that's a possible one. This one looks like it's got one, but it's smooth now. Yeah, this one has a filing edge as well. Let me just pull this one out here, and I'll just pull it out a bit so I can compare it to some other ones here. So this is a whole lot of files. So I want to pick one that's flat but has a filing edge to it, and there doesn't seem to be one in this list here. I did have some saw blades from before, but I reluctantly lost my saw. I'm not sure where it is anymore, but I'm trying to find the right blade here just for parting. And I know you can make a parting tool. Okay, this one here is good. So this in here is for filing screw heads. So this will allow you to file the top of a screw head, which is nice to complete a screw. So this might work. This one here might work. And here's some blades. I have some cutting blades here, but I need to find my saw to install the blade and then use it. So we'll do that in the future. Let me try this file right here and see how this would do at removing material. It might do perfectly. I gotta find where my foot is. Oh, there we go. Spinning it fast so it just doesn't catch. Yeah, that seems to be working. It's a little bit fatter than I'd like, but no problem in general. There's not much left to go here, but if you look at that, that's pretty good. I got the wrong camera going. Let me just flip here. There we go. Sorry about that. I may edit that out. Anyway, here it is here. Here's the file. And that's not a bad file. It's not as thin as I'd like it to be, but it's pretty good for parting. But look at that. Look at the end now. That's excellent. That's almost, I could just take a wrench and saw that off, but I'll just continue using the file. I'm pushing on it very lightly. It doesn't need to take off a ton of material, but if I push on it lightly, it'll get to the end here. And there it is there. You see how close that is? It's starting to rattle. That's what you end up with when you finish your pivots. I'll let it break off here. That's good. And I'm going to part this side too and remount this on a different chuck to be closer so there's less warble when I start working on that pivot on the side. So this time I'm going to bend it this way. Bend it like Beckham and try to file it away from that so it's See how well I'm doing there? Yeah, this works well. It's a good parting file, I think. You can use it if you get divorced as a parting file. You see what this looks like now? Oh yeah, I got like not much to go if you look at that, eh? So it did really well. I'm impressed. I'm going to put my hand under it in case it falls off. There we go. It fell off but didn't land on my hand, but I'm sure it'll be easy to find. It went bam! There it is there. I can see it right now. So now I can take out this stock metal, and you see how much metal there was left over. I'll put that back in my collection of stock in a second. I want to clean off the end here. I can do that with a broom or brush. And then I want to mount it the right chuck here that'll hold this balance staff. And here's what I ended up with, and I want to chuck it up on the back end here. I want to chuck it up on this end and back here, and so I can work on the front end pivot and make sure that it's got some stability. So I'm chucking it up backwards first just so I can smoothen out the edge here that I was filing, so when I put it in the other chuck to work on the other side, I don't have a rough edge to deal with. So once I get it in there, like this is not really tight, but I don't need this to be super tight and super accurate. I just want to clean up the end here a little bit. There we go. That should do right there. Just like that, and then I'm going to take a diamond plate and flatten it out. So these are my diamond plates. This is an edge of my diamond plate. So I can just take this really quickly, and that'll take material off super fast. And put a little bit of a bevel on it. There we go. So now it's looking really good to flip this around and recollet it on this side. Alright, 10 seems to be the right collet size. So I just put that collet in like that and then tighten it up just a tad. Like this, and then put the part in like so. It's fitting nicely. And I want this to be snug, but I do want it to spin nicely, so I'm going to just tighten this up a lot and see what it looks like. Yeah, I think I can work with that. I don't think that's warbling too much. Got a little bit of a warble. I might be able to get rid of that with the stick here. So I just loosen that up a bit. Like so, and then spin it and turn it. And see if that did anything. Yeah, that's not too bad there. There's still a little tiny bit of one though. Sure if I can get rid of that, go back again, loosen it up. And just use a stick to push up on it so it kind of tries to center it. Yeah, that's really good. So you can look at that and see there's not much of a warble there at all. It's centering to the piece, which is what I want. I want to center it to this part here. It's not too bad at all. So it's tight as hell as well. So now the pivot. So now I got to set myself up to make the pivot. To look at the, I got a little bit of a, in my graver, if you can see that, there's a little bit of a dent in both sides of that graver that I don't like. So I have to actually get rid of that. The only way to get rid of that is to sharpen the crap out of it. So I think those little edges or the dents or the hell they are gone now. Alright, so I'm going to see if I can turn this part into a pivot. Engrave that down to size and right about there, make all that pivot and then try to cone it up. So we'll see what I can do here. Sure, what the art of the doable is here. I gotta find out where my lathe pedal is. I got my legs out too far. Let's see if this material cuts nicely now. I'm getting a decent cut on it. I'm holding my graver at a little bit of an angle, that way it doesn't go underneath the piece. I'm going to put my really strong glasses on here because it's getting pretty testy, and I just want to make sure my graver does not go under the piece, because that would cause all kinds of problems. So let me get back in here and work on it. And once I get to a certain dimension, then it's necessary to work it with a stone. I'm not sure if I'm there yet. I'm getting really close to being there though. So I think this round graver does take material off and maybe too fast. But this one here might be a bit better. But I don't want to be in a situation where I snap the pivot part off. So I'm not sure if I'm making the right decision right now, but I'm just going to see if I can take a little more material off, and then I'll work it with a stone. All right, that's enough. Too scary. So right now that pivot is around the width of the graver, and that's 2 millimeters. So if I look at that graver, like there, and the width of that pivot, it's around 2 millimeters. So I'm too close to keep working it this way. So what I'll do is take out one of my stones here, and I've got a few of them. I've got an Arkansas stone. I think someone else told me what the name of the other stone was. I can't remember, but it looks like this. I can also use my pivot file to work that as well, if filing it is a better option. It might be until I get closer to the end. I just have to look and see. So here's my Valrobi, or whatever you call it. I think you pronounce the E's because it's Swiss, right? But that's my Valrobi pivot file right there, Valrobi. And I take the filing part of that, right, and work it from the bottom. And this is rounded here, so it's not going to remove material from the cone part. And I do this with one hand. So basically going like this with one hand to remove material. Now remember, when you're spinning a piece of metal, as you get closer to the center, it doesn't rotate as fast. So the angle of rotation is a lot less. So you can spin it a bit faster when it gets smaller like this. So I got to get close up here and get all these magnification devices out of my face here. There we go. Now I'm going to make a pivot on the end that's longer than I need, and that way I can trim it down. Because I don't believe the pivot needs to be as long as what I've got here. I'll put that in the watch and see how much I need to cut it away. And I can trial that and see where it sits with respect to the actual parts. If I'm really brave, I can put the balance staff in there, or the balance in there, and everything. But I want to make sure I got to grab that collar first to finish the other side of the pivot too. So I'm not that brave. Now what I don't know is if the stone I have will remove material faster than this file. It might. Again, you're holding it super light here. You can see the way I'm kind of holding it. I can show you that with a different camera after. Let me show you that. I'll hold the camera and I'll show it to you for a second just so you know what I'm doing. Alright, I got my hold onto camera right now in my hand. It's a little bit of a adventure with this camera, but let me see if I can go back a bit and show you what I'm up to. I got to put this underneath. I want to make sure I get the right part of the file, which I don't. So yeah, there. No, not there either. Right there. So that's perfect right there. So what I'm doing is, I'm going to get my stupid glasses off my face here. So what I'm doing here is I'm trying to get this organized. I'm holding it like this. You can see that. And doing this very lightly. So I'm holding it like this with 3 fingers. The rest of the file is down here, but it's basically being held with three fingers, kind of like that. It's like kind of like you'd hold a pencil, except separated a bit. And the action is on the tip. That's how you hold it. So just for your information. Now I have 2 types of stone. This stone, I believe, removes material a lot faster, but I got to watch it because I don't want to make a groove here. So I can work the part with this stone here. I'm holding it the exact same way I'm holding the file. And I can see the material coming off because the stone is turning, it goes grayish when the material comes off. So it goes from being blue to gray because I'm removing material. And I find if you do it, spin the material too fast, it won't remove it properly. So you got to pay attention to that. So that's the one file. If I was super brave, I'd go back to my gravers and remove a whole lot of material, but I'm not that brave today. So the second file here, this one here, does have a rounded corner. I think this is a rounded corner. I'm trying to see which one is rounded. This one here is rounded. Okay. And that way I can file away and it's not going to affect. And again, you can see how the material comes off of this. And you can see it's coming off of the end of the pivot right now, unless I move it in. So it's removing material quite well. And I can work the material with this. I've made many balance staffs this way, just with this file here. It takes some time. It's not an easy job. You can be working on a pivot for an hour. So it's very difficult. It's a laborious work. Now if you set this up with cross slides and you're really accurate, you might be able to finish this off properly with a good set of cross slides. But I think that this is the way they used to do it, and I like following the old principles so I don't screw this up. I'm making my cone a bit deeper here, and this is so I know that if it's too long I can reduce it in size too, so not too concerned here. But the material is definitely coming off right now. And I only need the tip to go into the jewel hole and beyond to the cap jewel. So let me just work on this and I'll be right back. I'm going to speed this part up, but anyway, I'm going to rest my elbows on the desk here and work away. Now because I have the jewel setting out, I'm actually able to just use the jewel hole or the jewel itself to measure the pivot on the end. So I think I've got a ways to go. If I just stick that in the end there, I know that's not going in. Now I could use my gauges to measure the hole and then use my jewel gauge to measure where I am here. Should be what I do. So let me try that first, because I don't want to be, you don't want to put this in and twist it accidentally and basically snap the pivot off. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to try to find my pin gauges. Alright, after lots of searching, the good news is I found my pin gauges, so there they are there. And if I'm looking at measuring the jewel hole here, I probably have a 0.11 or a 0.12, so I'm just going to cut to the chase and grab a 0.12 here. That's the pin gauge for 0.12 right there. And then I've got the jewel here. I'm not sure if this will focus properly, but I'm going to stick this into the jewel and see if I've got a match. And that looks pretty good. Alright, I've measured the heck out of my pivots, and the jewel hole size for the upper balance jewel is 0.13. So if I look at my ruler here and I go to 0.13, I can see that I'm way off for where I need to be. This is probably 0.28 or something like that. Let me go to one of these bigger ones. Yeah, 0.30 is where I'm at right now with this. So I'm at 0.30 right here, right there, and I should be at 0.13 over here. So I got quite a ways to go peeling this back. So, but it's a typical pocket watch pivot size. So I'm going to keep working on this with my stone and get that down to a much smaller size. Another thing you can do is put some cutting fluid on that stone too. It's a metal cutting fluid, as it says on the sides, I think. Where is it? Metal cutting fluid. There it is there. Metal cutting lubricant. And there we go. Yeah. Anyway, ozone friendly, so this is good. This stuff, a little bit of this in the stone will allow it to take material off faster. So with the cutting fluid on, I was able to remove the metal pretty fast with that stone. And now what I end up doing, I've done a bit of this already, is use my Valrobi tool to do some burnishing of the pivot. And that'll just harden the pivot up and smoothen it up a bit to finalize it. Now I still don't know if this is the exact right length for this, but what I'm going to do is take my take the actual stone itself and see if that'll fit on the end. So there you go. So that looks perfect and fits perfectly on the end. It's not too small, not too big, and it comes through, which is nice. And it gives me a little more material at the end in case I got to shave it back a bit, which is absolutely perfect. So that is a good job, folks. I just have to spin this around now and do the other end. I think I'll put this into the watch first and just see where it sits with the upper pivot, see where it ends up. So to take this out, you just have to loosen the collet here a bit, and then very carefully stick the balance staff onto the Rodico like that. And then I'm going to move that over to the movement and see how this actually sits in the movement. So here's my evil plan. I'm just going to lower the balance staff into the movement and then see where it sits after it's lowered in there, and see if I may be able to control it a bit with tweezers as I do this. But I'm just curious how far up that pivot will go once it's in. So very carefully, I don't want to drop it actually, so let me grab the pivot again here. I'll grab it from the bottom, from the base. Like this. And just kind of sit it on the jewel here. And I just want to see how high up that pivot goes. Alright, there we go. So now I'm seeing where it's sitting right now, and the pivot is sticking up through the top. And that's probably where I want it to be, actually. Because once I've made the lower pivot, then this will sit there perfectly, right? So there's no problem there at all. So right now, I drop that in. I see the upper pivot. The upper pivot is just level with the top, but by the time I get to make the lower pivot, I should be fine, right? So now I want to get this part out of here very carefully without ruining anything. See if I can I grab that, or do I do some other crazy stuff? There, I was able to grab it with my Rodico, so that's it. So this is what I have so far as my balance staff. Can I set that there? Yeah, there it is there. And you see how small that is? That is a small balance staff. So now I'm just going to mount it up opposite direction this way and change my collets. I just put it right here on the desk for a second, remember where it is, and just flip collets. And I just changed to a number 13 collet, which theoretically should be able to grab the collar of the balance staff, and that's the collar where the balance goes on. Just very carefully put that in like this, and there it is in place. And I'm not sure how tight that is, or whether it'll spin true. It's not too bad, but I think I'm going to have to do what I did before, where I just ride a toothpick or a piece of pegwood underneath, and I push it forward a bit, and that way it puts a bit of pressure pushing in on the actual collet, so I don't have to worry about the collet spitting the part out. So let's try spinning it like this for a second. I'm watching this to see if it actually grabs it or not. And that's so close. It's hard to, you don't want to move it too much when it's so good. No, that's not going to make it any better. Fine if you just loosen it, move it a bit, retighten it. Sometimes it'll find home. And then there's those other times where it never finds home. So that might be as good as I can get it. Now it'll find center when I start taking material off anyway, so let me ride this toothpick up on this again just for a second. Alright, that's about as good as I'm going to get it. It's going to be rocking just a bit, as you see, right? I don't like that, but I don't think I have a choice. No, I don't think I have a choice. I can still make a pivot with a little bit of a rock there. I wish I could figure out which way it's rocking. There, I think that's a bit better. It's not perfect, but it's not bad. Squish that thing down and let's start removing material. Again, I'm going to put that down to 0.13, so I think I can use my graver to start with like I did last time. Move that in and then take off some of the material. So in this case, on the back end of this one here, I don't need to I really don't need to worry about an oil drip on the bottom or anything. You do that to make them look fancy, I think, but I'm just going to make sure I cut that pivot properly and cone it. So I know I keep hitting my glasses on the camera. So let me get my graver out and make sure it still works and there's no problem there. I think it's still good. All right, let's get into action here. One thing I'm really sick of is my iPhone telling me I'm to stand up and do all sorts of other shit. It's bugging the crap out of me every time it goes, oh, congratulations, you won this, or you stood up, or whatever. How do I turn that crap off? That's not for watchmakers. It's just for people that easily get pissed off. So I got to adjust this here, and that's just the tip over tool rest, so it's not too close, not too far. So I do that and see where my it's about perfect right there. That's where my graver ends up, and I just very carefully tighten it on the bottom, and I believe tighten it on the top. That's good. I'm actually going to take my iWatch off there, my Apple Titanium, and throw it on the ground. Get it off my wrist so it'll shut up. So sorry, a little bit aggressive today. Got 2 calls from work and I don't work anymore. So let me start removing material from this. I got to get it down considerably. I need this to fit the roller table, right? And if I look at the old one, let me measure the old one first. So the old one is at 0.7. So if I look at with my Dusium gauge here and look at where this one is, too many glasses on here, by the way, but look at where this one is with the Dusium gauge, and I'm way up there. I think I'm at, not too far up. I'm at just over 9, so at 0.9. But anyway, so I need to be at 0.7, so that's not too far to go actually. So you got to take a bunch of material off of this to get it down to around 0.7. Then I'll start actually fitting the trial fitting the roller table. So let's do a little cutting here, and I'll just tape a bit of this, and then I'll leave you guys alone, and then now with this stuff here, you measure 50 times and cut once, because you do not want to overcut it. So I took a bunch of material off there, and I'm just going to look at where I'm at the tip. And again, I cut more off at the tip, and then so I'm at just 0.8.5 right now. So I got more to go, and I cut more off at the tip because I want to taper it up, right? So I wait till I get the tip right, and then I can taper the rest of it up. See, again, I'm taking more off at the tip. That way I can put the roller table on and know exactly how far up I need to be, because it is absolutely friction fit. And so right now I'm at 0.7 at the base. So that theoretically the roller table might fit here. I'll grab the roller table here and then have a look at whether it's fitting or not. So let me just grab that roller table. I wish I had 4 different pairs of glasses, because I keep having to flip from the lathe glasses to other glasses. So here's the roller table here, and I just look at how that'll fit down on the end here. So it's kind of not going on yet, so I need to remove a bit more material. Set that aside here, and I know that I have to remove more material, so I can remove material from the back end here to match the front end. And the trick there is to just focus on the top of the part when you're doing this, and not on the bottom. There. So I've taken a bunch of material off the bottom, kind of leveled off the other side. And so the roller table should actually fit on there right now. There we go. So there's a roller table in place. And I know if I pull that out, right, I can see that it's going off. It's going almost to there, which is almost halfway. And then it's sticking. So I want that halfway mark is kind of where the roller table, basically the metal at that halfway point is the right size. So if I take this off, just going to see if I can scrape this a bit. And I know that right around, I'll say right around there is where it's the right size. I'm going to put the roller table back on again to make sure I'm not full of crap. It's a little bit, yeah, I think that's where it is right there. And so now when I remove material, it's a bit touchier for the roller table because it has to be friction fit, and I can see the taper here. So I don't want it to, I'll taper it up a little more. Got little pieces of metal that are distracting me. All right, so I'm going to taper it up more. Let's see what that did, if anything. Yeah, you can kind of see where it's going up there. And I just need to taper this a bit more. Try that out. This is a game of nerves. That's kind of where we are here. I know it's got to be going on a little further here. I need to take off even more material, folks. Even more. Let me see if I can taper that up a bit. Apologize for the amount of time it takes to do this, but it's not an easy job. Alright, hopefully it didn't take too much off. It's very difficult to actually adjust this. I think this is where you'd actually have to glue the damn thing on if you screwed it up too much. So I think it's going on even more right now. Now the question is it on? Is there enough metal there to pound it up, or is it, because I know it's going on right there and that's so close. Yeah, that's very close to being able to just tap that on. I'm going to take off just a bit more, kind of halfway, to allow me to have material to finalize it, because you want it to be able to grip. So all right, that might be it right there. I'm recording the whole thing because this is a bit nerve-wracking, but yeah, I'm not sure if that'll grip or not. I'm looking at it here, that's just so close that if you take away just a tad too much, then the roller table you won't be able to rivet it on. That's the problem. And if I'm looking at the angle here, I perhaps could get a little bit more off of it, but not much. Try that. All right, that's enough right there. So that allows me, with a little bit of material on the end, to tap that roller table back on. So that's pretty good right there. That gives me material at the very end of the staff here to tap that roller table into position. That's probably perfect right there. Just like that. I dropped it. Now I got to make sure it goes on the right way, right? So it would go on with the safety roller on the bottom part. So I was right. Basically it goes on like that. So it's like that. Any more material and then I've ruined it. But that's perfect right there. So, and that's a double roller here. I tap that into position and we're good to go. And that means the very end of this roller table is where that pivot needs to be, right? So it's going to be tricky. I don't want to remove too much material for that pivot. So I got to be so careful. So I basically have to carve the very end of this thing down to make the pivot. Right down, basically down here. There, that's as far as I'm going to go with the graver. And I think I'm going to start working it with the stone now, because if I take too much off with the graver, I'm going to be in a grave situation. I may actually use the other graver I have here, the two flat, and see if the two flat will take some off with zero risk. So this is the two flat here, and just take a bit off of that. And I'm going to hold it at an angle here. All right, that's enough. Now the rationale for holding it the graver at an angle is so it doesn't slip underneath. If you hold it flat, it catches something, it falls underneath, and then you're screwed. So now I'm going to work the part with the stone and a little bit of cutting fluid. So I'll be able to shape the back of this, the back end of this, in preparation for finalizing and putting the parts on. So we'll see. I'm gonna just basically, I'll work it for 2 seconds showing you how it's done, and then I'll go from there. So I gotta pick the correct edge of the stone here, and I want the part of the stone that's some of this has already got cutting fluid on it, but I want the part of the stone that allows me to carve stuff away and make that kind of a, I want to be able to make that angle, the cone. So let's see how good this works. The other thing I could do as well, but I'm not going to, is use the round part, the rounded point 2, or the 2mm rounded, which would help me round this off faster. But now that I've got the stone, I'm working the stone nicely here, I'm not too concerned. So I'll just get that down to the right size. And it looks like that could be absolutely the right length right now anyway, so I don't think I can add or subtract anymore once I could put the parts on. So based on where I saw that pivot sticking up, right? I'm gonna get my eyepiece closer to my eyes too, because it's annoying me. Clean some of that off. Put a little bit on the stone here. Romancing the stone. That cutting oil is pretty good though. You're just going to rub it around like that, and then it's great for drilling, by the way, if you're going to drill steel. So I went to a different edge of the stone too, because I think that edge I had was out of commission. You see all that black, that's the material being removed, so it's doing a pretty good job. It just takes time. Now when people say I'm going to make a balance staff for a pocket watch, they can make a balance staff, you know that they're pretty good at watch repair. It takes a lot of years to get this skill down. You got to do this with not too much upward pressure or you'll snap the actual staff. So you got to basically work it without too much upward pressure, because that absolutely will snap the staff. So I'm going to just see if this stone here will take some material, flatter material off here. Get a little bit of cutting fluid on here too. Just a tad of cutting fluid. Don't need much. You can see that's looking pretty good there. So I want to measure that now just to make sure I'm not going too far with this. So I get my gauge out and we're looking at 0.13, right? So yeah, I got a ways to go. Not much, but I do have a ways to go. It cuts so fast. Before you know it, it's cut. So you really got to watch it. Here's where we are right now. It's getting pretty close. Let me see what I got here. This is a very long video. I apologize, but what do they say? Too bad. Gotta go even more. It's 0.13 on the bottom, which it likely is. I've got to get down even more. I know when you get near the very end of cutting the pivot, it doesn't take much to just overdo it. Let me just clean the end off this for a second. And measure this. I'm getting very close right now. Yeah, just a bit more. Tire myself out here. Man, that ain't it, then I'm not whatever. How's that saying go? Alright, so the pivot's now going in. And what I'm going to do is take the other jewel and measure that, because I believe the top and bottom are the same. So I'm going to grab the other jewel. So this is a long recording, I apologize. And just see if I can, if this is the right size. So let me just go in here and just yep, it fits. It's the right size, folks. So that goes in. I'm going to look at it from the other side too, just to make sure. And I do have to put other glasses on because these glasses just aren't close enough. I need the times 15 to get right up there. Yeah, see, it's going through. So I'm going to just take this off very carefully. Like that, and then I can actually burnish this now just a bit, which will harden it. So get out my burnisher here. I'm just keeping the camera rolling here just to show you how this is done, because the staff is pretty much done. So let me just burnish this here. Done. So there we go. That is a balanced staff. Now we're going to do the fitting after, but I'm pretty confident about this. Now once I've put the components on, I'll put the roller table on, and then I'll put I'll rivet the balance on, and then put the hairspring on. I'll probably fit it before I put the hairspring on, and allow it just with the balance to see what kind of fit I have. And that way I know that the fit is good and there's no issue at all with the balance staff. So that's it, folks. That's the new balance staff. That's a 0.13 pivot on the end, and I've got 0.13 pivot on both ends of that balance staff. This should work perfectly. I'm going to leave this video as the fourth in how to make a balance staff. The third thing I could do after this is actually the adjustment of the balance staff. So once I've riveted on or put on the balance itself, which will go on very easy, the hairspring collet, which should go on very easy, I'll probably put the balance on and spin the balance and make sure it's working, it's operating properly with the balance being able to spin on its own before I put on the actual roller table. Because the jewel in the roller table will be interfered by the pallet fork. So I want to make sure there's good movement. Now when I put that on, I'll be able to tell whether my cut for the balance is perfect. So it should be good. There should be no issues here. There's lots of real estate on both sides. It looks like it's the right size. And if I look at the previous balance in comparison, it's pretty close. I probably have a little bit bigger of a rivet on the end there, but not much. But making the pivots is the harder part. Using the cutting oil helps speed that up a lot. And there's the two stones. And again, you can write and tell me what this other stone is. I keep forgetting, but these are the two stones I use. I largely use the Arkansas stone here. This, I think, is the Arkansas stone. And it has a rounded edge, which allows you to remove pivot material while keeping that conic shape. And you can see that I've got a good cone on both sides. It looks pretty sharp, actually. So I'm pretty proud of that. This should work fine. And you've just got to be very patient when you're making a balance staff. So that's it. That's my series on how to make a balance staff on a lathe. The rest of the work is either going to be, it's not going to be on the lathe. It'll likely be in a J-Cot tool if I need to do that to shape the balance or do anything on the staff on the end. Or a pivot lathe that I have as well if I need to do any adjustment of that at all. So hopefully not. Hopefully the darn thing just works. It looked really good when I put it down with the depth. And I know that I put the nubby end where the roller table is down in the bottom jewel, and the other one stuck up a little bit higher than it would normally with the jewel in it. But I knew that would sink into the jewel. So as long as it sinks far enough into the jewel, I have no issue. If it doesn't sink far enough into the jewel, then I have to trim the bottom. So, but I think that's fine. That's a fine-tuning the balance staff, but this is how you cut a balance staff. So hopefully this is the most comprehensive video out there on how to make a balance staff. Watch it all. I talk occasionally as I'm making the staff, and there's good bits to learn in there, and just watch it all. If you're bored, and just fast forward to something you want to see. But it's the technique. It's how you hold the various tools, like this burnisher here. When I hold it in my hand, I'm holding it like that. So I'm holding it kind of like this, and I'm moving my wrist back and forth. I'm supporting my elbows to do that. I don't want to do it freehand without elbow support because it gives me control. And when I'm using the Arkansas stone on the pivot, same thing. I got my elbows supported on the desk, and I'm really up close with times 15. And I got a bit of cutting oil on there that I showed you earlier, and I'm just working it about that much. That's about as far as I'm moving my hand and just vibrating it. You don't want to put any undue upward pressure on this because it'll snap the pivot off. You have to be able to basically, the pivot's riding here, and if you look at that, it's able to move up and down with my fingers in this position. If my fingers were totally like this and I'm pushing up hard like that, the pivot will break off. Most of the force is on my fingers here, and this bottom finger here is just for guidance. So I hold it on extremely lightly so that when I move around, this finger actually moves a bit. So that's how I do it. I keep a very fine touch in doing that. So that's the end balance staff. Please support my videos, and I should get a nicer piece of Rodico and take one more shot. All right, there's the balance staff on a really nice clean piece of Rodico. It's funny how much stuff is on the Rodico, and it's clean. So you can see the cuts there. It's pretty good. I think the pivots are pretty good. They're coned a little bit, but they go into the jewel holes nicely. The cone actually gives them some strength. If you look at the physics of a cone, it's like a pyramid basically. So any shape like this going down is stronger. So if you had it just like a stick, it could snap off right at the base, but it's not. It spreads out, so it's a lot stronger. Anyway, it fits into the jewel nicely. So it's a 0.13 joule, and that's the job. So you've seen me make the balance staff now, so I want you to get your tools out, find a watch that needs a balance staff, and go for it. You'll love it. We'll tune this up later, but this is the balance staff, and the next video will be me assembling all of the parts of the balance on this and putting it into the watch and getting the watch going again. So thanks a lot. I'm JD. Please subscribe to my channel. If you like this, please give me a comment. I like the comments. Tell me you like it. Tell me what you want improved. If you want them shorter, well, in this one here, I decided to go long on it anyway, and you do have a fast forward on your TV or on your computer. So there you go. That's it. That's how to make a balance staff. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll be assembling it, riveting it, and getting it going likely tomorrow. So thanks a lot, and stay tuned for the next video. And one more thing, if you don't think a balance staff is small and you're just tuning into this video, this is the end of a ballpoint pen. That's the ball and the end of a ballpoint pen. That's a balance staff, and I'm going to just throw my pointing finger in here right now so you get an idea how small that is. That's the fingernail part of my pointing finger. So this balance staff, I'll roll it back and forth for you, is very small. So making these parts is very difficult.